Hi, welcome to Northeast Missouri. 80 yesterday, 31 tonight. We're in the garage tonight talking tender springs. I, like many, have lost all the spring in the factory tender springs. I am not going to condemn the Polaris springs, nor am I going to defend the Polaris springs. But obviously, like many of us, I have added an aftermarket bumper, rock sliders, front glass, back glass, whips, lights, multiple other brackets for all of those, as well as a rack for the toolboxes carrying all your trail supplies. Ounces equal pounds. Obviously, this machine is a lot heavier than it was from the factory on a daily basis. So I'm not going to bash the engineers for Polaris on their springs. Irregardless, the springs have collapsed. As it sits in the garage, I've got 13.5 inches clearance in the front, 8 inches in the front fender well, 12 inches in the rear, 11.5 inches in the rear fender well. I'm going to replace these with R1 industry springs. They are heavier, longer. I'm not so much concerned about the ride height as I am putting a little tender back into the tender springs. This really isn't a how-to video. There's a lot of information out there on how to put the springs in, as much as it is a before, after the installation. So give me just a little bit and come back and we'll have the rest of the installation done. All right, so we're back after the install. Pretty straightforward process. I did say that this wasn't going to be a how-to video, but a couple things I learned along the way. Everything I watched and read stated that on the front shocks, you could simply unbolt the bottom, swing them out, slide your springs off, but the rear shock you'd have to take off completely. I did not have to do that. My spring compressors fit in there, and so I was able to only take the bottom bolt out, swing the shock up without having to completely remove the rear shock. So just kind of a little side note there for you. Overall, basically, pretty straightforward. I set my preload all right back to the factory preload with the new springs. I have gained height in the ride. The front is now at 15 3/4. The front fender well, 10.5. The rear at 14.5. And the rear fender well at 13 3/4. So basically, with setting everything back to the factory preset, I've gained about 2.5 inches in ride height. I did run up and down the street a couple times to settle the suspension. As you can see, I marked the floor, also used wheel chocks, all in place to make sure that I was parked right back in the exact same spot to get accurate measurements. Get back with me in a couple weeks after a couple trail rides. We'll kind of let you know how it goes from there and what I think of them after that. Thank you.